All right, everyone, welcome to this workshop for our TGS Micro Mentorship workshop series. We are so excited to be here today with Dr. Kavin Tsang. Please, Dr. Kavin Tsang, feel free to take it away.
Right. Well, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. And again, I'm always very excited to have the opportunity to interact and converse with our students. Before, kind of meet, and that's something that you will see here. I learned pretty quickly. I can rant and talk all day long, but I'd like to get a little information about each of you first before we get going. And one, if you could just confirm what program you're from or you're in, and what year you are and what your intentions are in terms of when you finish here at Cal State Fullerton. Do you have a plan for the next steps? So we can start with Chelsea.
So I'm a third year, but this is my first semester as like a child development major. And yeah, I plan on becoming an elementary school teacher.
Okay. What were you before you became a CAS major?
I was chemistry for a year, and then I took like a year deciding. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Chelsea. Carlos?
I am also a third year, and my major is kinesiology. When I first started college, my idea was to possibly do accounting. So I had switched over from that major, and then either it's not personal training, physical therapist, that's what it is. That's my idea. I'm not 100% sure with it, so I'm just continuing with it and dabbling a little bit in psychology. So I'm kind of all over the place, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So you did start here at Cal State Fullerton under kinesiology or?
Accounting.
Accounting.
Business.
Yeah. Okay. And then you kind of switched out into kinesiology. How long did that take you? A year, a semester?
I think it was during my second semester I had switched.
Okay. Okay. And Chelsea, you said you switched out after 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let me just double check here. Shannon is just joining us for that part. Hi, Shannon. Great. So I think, there's perhaps there's other information that you may want to get from me. And what I was thinking today would be valuable. It's because I think the focus for today was really supposed to be about talking about the next step, graduate school preparation, that type of thing. But without having any real background information about me, it may change the way that you receive or value the information that we talk about. So I thought it'd be important for me to share a little bit about myself with you, so that you get a sense of why he says what he's saying. Because what I'll tell you is that I was not a good well, let me start. My name is Kavin Tsang. I am an associate dean here in the College of Health and Human Development. I started, though, at Cal State Fullerton in 2008 as a faculty in the Department of Kinesiology. And I specialized, my area was in athletic training. So I was one of the 3 faculty members that ran our athletic training program, which was under the Department of Kinesiology. After a few years, after getting tenured, I was fortunate enough to be elected by our faculty to be the department chair for the Department of Kinesiology. So I served in that role for about 6 years, and then I had the opportunity to move up or move into the role of an associate dean. When I was in the process, when I first came to Cal State Fullerton, my intentions and my desire was to be a faculty member with an athletic training program. And I had achieved that goal, if you will, right? That's what I was doing. And then other opportunities, employment, if you will, came along as I was doing what I really wanted to do here. So not that I am not, good, if you will, or interested in the role of being a department chair or an associate dean. I think it's important that you all understand or know, for the majority of faculty here and even administrators, we came and we took our jobs because we wanted to do that, which was teach. We wanted to teach, we wanted to be researchers, if you will, within our field here at Cal State Fullerton. And that's where we really were coming from. I was fortunate, I grew up in Hawaii, and I got my undergraduate degree there at the University of Hawaii in physical education. And then I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to go to, and you probably haven't heard of this school. It's called Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia. And I was fortunate enough to go and get my master's degree there in exercise science. And then again, through that, I was very fortunate to pursue getting a PhD at Penn State University. And I spent, several years there, 3 years. I got my PhD, and my first job, faculty job out of Penn State University was at Michigan State University. And I was the program director at Michigan State University for athletic training. It was, again, in a department of kinesiology. I was there for 4 years, and then realized during that time, that type of an institution where it was very, what we call an R1, a research intensive university. That wasn't the kind of environment that I wanted to be in terms of being a faculty for athletic training. So I left there and I moved all the way out here to California, which I had some family, but I moved to California and was able to get a job at Cal Lutheran University up in Thousand Oaks, Calabasas area. And again, it was with a athletic training program. Faculty there, very fortunate to get that job. But it was, again, after a few years, I realized it was not the environment that I was really comfortable with. It was a very small school at that time. And the number of faculty total on the campus, if you will, fit into a room that would hold 98 people. So we were not big at all. And that just wasn't quite the environment that I was really attracted to. And then the opportunity here at Cal State Fullerton opened up, and it worked out perfectly because we have an emphasis and a support to conduct research as a faculty, but we are also faculty teaching, and teaching still is, again, the main objective and role for us as faculty here. And the program wasn't so small. This university wasn't real tiny. Now, back then, again, now we're at 41,000 students. Again, it was not that big in 2008. So it fit really nicely back then. Now we've definitely grown. Okay. So sharing that information, what I wanted you to grasp from that is there are paths that we take. Right. And some of the paths that we take are opportunities that we really work for, that's our goal. And we make the right decisions to go in, make sure that we're successful in achieving our goals. Others sometimes are opportunities that come along. And while you may not have that as your plan, the opportunity comes along, and hopefully you are able to take advantage of it. And it leads you to the next step, whatever that might be. But I think it's important that we kind of recognize it can happen both ways. It doesn't have to happen because I planned it and I took the right steps to get to that plan. It doesn't mean that that's always the path that occurs. So Carlos, you mentioned earlier about, you're kind of thinking about this and you're kind of in this time, kind of feeling it out and all that. There's nothing wrong with that, and that is perfect, right? That's the way it's supposed to be, and that's the way it's going to work out for you. Whereas somebody else, another student in your department may have started in that department and knew that that was their plan and that was their goal, and they will go and do that, and they will be successful in that route as well. Chelsea, again, you're kind of in that same plan. You started in something else, but then over the last couple of years, you've really seen, if you will, that you want to be a teacher, and then you're you're making decisions to help you succeed in that path. And you've even figured out the fact that, unfortunately, here in California, you can't be a teacher just by getting a bachelor's degree. Right? You've already figured out and talked to people to say, oh yeah, okay, you have to have a bachelor's degree, then you got to do a credentialing program, and then that allows you to be a teacher. So you've kind of made those connections, if you will, to get that information, and that's great. As I started off with earlier, I was not a good student coming out of high school. Well, I take it back. I was not a good college student. Coming out of high school, my GPA was like a 3.7 or 3.8 or something like that. And I, did pretty well in high school. I took AP classes and, got credits for that. And then I was lucky because I actually had only applied to one university coming out of high school, and that was SLO, San Luis Obispo, and didn't even think twice about the fact that I might not get into SLO. And then what am I going to do? And sure enough, that's what happened. I did not get admitted to SLO, and I scrambled, and I was lucky enough to be able to get enrolled at the University of Hawaii. So I started there as an engineering student. Why engineering? I don't know, because I'm an Asian guy, and that's what it seemed like Asian kids did, right, in Hawaii. So I went into engineering. In the first 3 semesters, I bombed everything. At the end of 3 semesters, my GPA was I believe it was like a 0.95 or something like that. My first semester at the University of Hawaii, I did not take a single final exam in that semester. Why? Because they were scheduled the same time that I had to work. So it was more important to me at the time to go to work than to take a final exam, because I didn't really think that it mattered that much. So made decisions, for things that, for reasons that probably, I would hope you're sitting there thinking like, who is this guy? Like, who would make a decision like that? Because you know what I was doing for a job that I was scheduled to work instead of taking a final exam? I was pumping gas. Back then, we had full service at the gas stations. And I would, when a car pulled up, I would go out there and put the gas in and wash the windows. That's the decision I made back then, was I would rather go and do that than attend to what I was going to college for, right? Which again, did not align. And that thought process, decision-making process occurred for 3 semesters. And you can tell, you can figure out very easily, it doesn't take very much effort at all to achieve a 0.98 GPA in 3 semesters, right? So you don't go to classes, you don't take exams. And at that point, the university pretty much said, hey, you can't keep coming here, so we're putting on probation. And so, I had to be pushed away, if you will, from the university for, a few years, a couple of years before I could actually work my way to go back in. And it was during that time that I had to really take the steps that you probably took before in deciding to come to Cal State Fullerton, as well as what you've already done in thinking about your career, your future. I had to do that back then, right? And at that time, by the time I made that decision, the hole was pretty deep already. It wasn't impossible. I wasn't buried, but I was definitely in a hole. And it takes a lot of effort to increase your GPA from 0.98 to 3.0 to graduate. Okay. But it's not impossible. It's doable, right? And what I'll tell you is what drove me to being able to do that was figuring out along the way. One, I had to just decide that I wanted to get a college degree. And we all have our reasons of why we wanted to get a college degree. I'm a first generation student in my family to go to college. One, I was probably also the first generation to get kicked out of college as well. So, I'm a star in both ways, right? But my brother had gone to college, so he was still in college when I got kicked out. So obviously there was that competition, right? So I decided I needed to go back to college. And then when I finally, I started taking a lot of community classes, college courses, just so that I can elevate my GPA to a point where the university would consider me again. And I started back. I didn't go back to engineering, but I went back and I went and considered accounting. Then I went and considered economics. And then I went and considered architecture. And I lucked out I took a class that was entry athletic training or entry sports medicine. And it was in that class that I met the instructor, who was a certified athletic trainer. And she was the one that actually started to talk to me more in the class about what an athletic trainer is and what the profession was all about. And I instantly gravitated towards that, right? And there was that moment of when something finally clicked, and it really started to help me focus my future efforts from there. And then I think, Carlos, you might be kind of in that process, that time frame as well. And Chelsea, it sounds like you probably went through that, and you're kind of on the other side of that process. So, my sharing about that is, who knows how we get to that point, but eventually we get to that point. Now, when I finished my undergraduate degree, I elected to go through secondary phys ed as my main degree, and I minored, if you will, in athletic training, so that I could be employable in two ways. Because in Hawaii at the time, athletic trainers were really only at the high schools, or they were at the university. And there was only one university, on Oahu at that time that had athletic trainers. So it was, hey, what are my best chances of getting a job? Would be to be able to also teach PE at one of the high schools, and then also be the athletic trainer. Well, it worked out perfectly where by the time I graduated, you didn't have to be a teacher and then do athletic training part-time. We were actually at that time, the first years of when an athletic trainer were hired full-time at the high schools. So I lucked out and I went right into being able to have a full-time job as a certified athletic trainer at the high school level. And that was my plan. I was going to do that until I got old and I got curmudgeony and would have to retire. Along the way, though, as I was working, the program director at the University of Hawaii, got the job at Georgia Southern University to be the program director. And then so, he had an opportunity to bring graduate or students with him to become graduate students at Georgia Southern University and earn a master's degree, right? And what was nice about that opportunity was the fact that he had a stipend package, right? The stipend would cover my tuition at Georgia Southern University, and it would also give me a teaching assistant position. So I taught PE classes there while I was a student, and that would give me, you know, X amount of dollars each month. So kind of like a part-time job. So, you know, when I was thinking about that, it's not going to cost me a dime, if anything, to go and earn a graduate degree, right? So everybody that I spoke to around me said, you'd be crazy to pass this up. Like, where else do you get an opportunity to get paid, if you will, to go to school and get a degree? So, you know, I jumped at that opportunity. But the plan, though, was, or my thoughts at the time was, I get my master's degree, and then I'm going to come back to Hawaii and work again. It wasn't going to make any difference, though, whether I got paid any more or not. But it would be something that would be a potential, that would make me eligible for other types of positions that might open up in Hawaii at that time. So while being a high school athletic trainer, you just needed your bachelor's degree and be certified. Even adding a master's degree didn't increase your pay any. But if a job at a university opened up, I would be eligible because I had the minimum requirements, which was a master's degree, okay, at that time. But like I mentioned, after I finished my degree at Georgia Southern, I had an opportunity to work there. So I stayed for a couple more years thinking that, okay, I'm going to work. And maybe I won't go back to Hawaii after all. You know, cost of living was much, much cheaper in Statesboro, Georgia, which again, I never really understood what that meant until I lived in a place where, you know, gas in Hawaii was, or a gallon of milk was $4, and a gallon of milk in, you know, Statesboro, Georgia was $1.25. You know, you start to realize that, wow, you know, life is different in different parts of the country. And you start paying attention to some of those things. Through that experience, I networked with individuals, and some of them were individuals that were, again, running the program at Penn State University. And sure enough, an opening in their doctoral program happened. Full stipend again, covering your tuition. Again, a stipend to teach part-time and get, again, a little bit of money for that. So again, same thing happened. Here's an opportunity that, you know, nobody would really say that you should pass this up. This is the best way that you can do this. However, the big decision, though, was, but what does getting a PhD do for you? You know, was it my intention to ever be a researcher? Was it my intention or my interest to be a faculty, you know, at a university level? So those were all things that I needed to consider at that point, because at that point now and that time in my life, it wasn't you know, I'm gonna get a PhD and then go back to Hawaii and be an athletic trainer at a high school again. That's when you're kind of asking yourself that question of, what is the investment, and how does that pay out for you when you're complete with it, right? If an opportunity was open up at the University of Hawaii to be a faculty, sure, I guess I could be eligible for that. But that's not how you know, individuals usually get faculty type positions. So, you know, I made that decision that, you know, you know, I was a pretty good athletic trainer, if you will, clinically, but I also thought that I was not a bad teacher, and I thought that that would be a good way for me to continue mentoring, if you will, and showing younger individuals, all the great things that I loved about my profession. And, I thought, okay, that is the direction I'd like to go. And so I made that decision to do that. So, again, you heard the rest of my story of now it was just a matter of where I wanted to actually do, my ultimate goal at the end, right? So those are things that will come along as you make those considerations along the way. Now, coming back to, us here today, each of you are in little different stages of where you're kind of processing your career. And I think both ways are unique and organic and perfect for each of you. I think the next step, though, is, again, what do we consider and how have we utilized resources that are available to us in making these decisions, in asking these questions about the next step, right? You're both here for a reason. I would imagine, right, that even though if we started college at Cal State Fullerton because it was that or I had to get a full-time job, right? I mean, some of us, our families tell us that, right? But we're here for a reason. We're looking at, okay, we're going to earn a college degree and it's going to lead me to this, whatever the next step is, okay? As you start to think about potential of graduate school, like Chelsea, like we've mentioned, you've already recognized that, yeah, that's required, right? So you've already, I think, utilized some of the resources to help you get that information, and that understanding and that preparation. So, my advice would be for you to consider the question of, but where do I want to do that? Is it at Cal State Fullerton in College of Education program, which is awesome? And if, again, you were thinking that you would like to teach in, California, and especially in Southern California, why wouldn't you consider, our College of Ed programs, right? Because, again, that's where all the networks are going to be set up as well. So again, that would be a great resource for you to start tapping into even more, if you haven't already done so. And I'm sure our staff here on the screen, as well as just on the website, if you wanted to know who to talk to in the College of Ed about your interests, we will throw out a bunch of names for you. We'll even help set up appointments for you to talk to those individuals. And again, from even what I know of those individuals, they would be able to also talk with you about if you had interest to teach somewhere else. Hey, what are things you should think of if really you're thinking about moving up to Washington, to be a teacher over there for whatever reason you have an interest in that. They can help prep you for those conversations. So I think it's real important that if you haven't made those connections, to do that. Even go beyond the CAS faculty, which are incredible. But again, the more resources you, I think, take advantage of, the better you're going to be able to, the more information you'll have to make the decision that you need to make. Carlos, for you, the same thing. You kind of mentioned a little bit about you're thinking personal training, or then you're thinking physical therapy. Again, there are advisors in kinesiology. Julia and Sarah are great for you to talk with about those particular interests. I would also point you in the direction of other resources available at Cal State Fullerton, like the Allied Health Professions Office. Dr. Michelle Mutapa could really sit down and talk with you about the path to physical therapy. The faculty in kinesiology should be good resources for you to outreach to as well. And again, I would invite you to contact me. I have nothing against physical therapists, but I think there are a lot of other therapy areas, professions that would be more interesting to to certain individuals, like occupational therapy. That could be something that you may want to look into a little bit. So I think there are many resources for you to kind of consider if that's the avenue you want to go, or even consider other things like physician assistant programs, right? I think, in our topic today about considering grad school, though, that's one of the very interesting things about both the departments that you're both from, kinesiology and child and adolescent studies. Unfortunately, there really isn't that job, right? There isn't a kinesiologist job. So that, okay, I get my BS in kinesiology and I am going to get this job. It's, looking at something in one of the subdisciplines, right? And right now there is such a push that you do need a master's degree, a graduate degree to go into and get a job in those subdiscipline areas. And it's not necessarily because you're not educated enough from your bachelor's degree. It's when it comes down to the older way of the way our professions have been created, that if I have one position as an exercise physiologist and I have 80 applicants, more often than not, the individuals, the applicants with a master's degree are going to be the ones that are going to be really looked at, versus the one that just only has a bachelor's. Not because of, again, they're not prepared appropriately. A master's degree usually will indicate you have more experience, right? And you have additional experience. So, it becomes one of those, you're keeping up with the Joneses, you're keeping up with the competition. And that's unfortunately the way it's happening in kinesiology. In physical therapy, it's even the case where in order to be able to sit for the licensing exam, certification exam, for a physical therapist, you have to come or graduate from a doctorate in physical therapy program. Now, you don't have to go from a bachelor's to a master's to a doctorate in physical therapy, but you have to go from a bachelor's to a doctorate in physical therapy. So it is graduate school, and that's kind of the requirement. So some of our aspirations for the future, our careers, are requiring us to go that route. Okay. And it's expensive. It's an expensive avenue to go. And that's where I think, you really want to go back and make sure that is what you want to do, right? Because it's going to be expensive. If you're fortunate, like I am, like I was, to be able to get the stipends and all that, great. But that's not as common as it was before. So I think those become a little, the stipends type opportunities become a little bit more competitive, particularly too if that was something that I learned coming here at Cal State Fullerton with our athletic training program. The majority of our students were not considering going to graduate school outside of the local area or the state of California. So, there are only so many opportunities here. So, that's that limited their opportunities to get the assistantships and whatnot, going to a different state. And for, again, very strong reasons, very passionate reasons for themselves, they decided to stay within California to do that. So, then you try to explore the different resources there. But I think my, main message is to, you're doing what you're doing what you need to be and should be doing. And I think you've made always, have fallen back to, and this is why you've decided to go this way. Whatever that reason is, Chelsea, that prompted you to want to be a teacher, keep that in mind. When things get tough, when, if you make a mistake, you don't do well in a class or whatever, and you feel like, yeah, well, I guess, my my chances are gone. No, they're not. Okay. Again, think back to the hole that I was in. There's a way to work back into the group. You just have to make sure that you want to do that. That's the direction you want to go. And I think you'll be very successful in that way. We're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes. The key is we learn from them and we take advantage of the resources to help us make sure we don't have the same mistakes again, and how whatever decisions that we're making is helping us back to the path where we were on before. Okay. And that's, the biggest thing is I never took advantage of any of the resources that were available to me. I thought I knew it all. I thought I understood it all, and I didn't. And that's why I was in such a deep hole. After figuring out what I wanted to do and what resources were available, geez, it made it so much more, not just easier, but it made it more meaningful. And it helped me identify that this is what I want to do. And again, when times are hard, you do fall back on that, and you're heading in the right direction with your efforts. So enough about me. Happy to questions, concerns about anything about your path, your time here at Cal State Fullerton so far, or going forward. And then again, Dimitri, Shannon, Melissa, if you have questions that you'd like me to address, I'm happy to do that as well. One thing I will say, and I always forget to, is Carlos, Chelsea, you don't have to dig yourself a deep hole to be successful. Okay, so if you're doing well, great, keep it up. Okay, you don't have to have a story like mine to feel like you are succeeding. Okay, if you're succeeding now, keep at it. You're doing the right things already. All right. Don't feel bad that you're not having a hard time like I did.
So Kevin, I wanted to say that I think you've done a great job addressing a lot of the things that we hoped you would, and I hope that this has been so far valuable for Chelsea and Carlos. Really, I want to invite the two of you. What has been one of the biggest takeaways so far from this conversation?
I think you gave very good advice. It's true, it's very organic and natural to try to figure out what you want to do. Because, for instance, I came to school right after high school, and not like I knew anything about life. I don't know how to say it, but yeah. And that's why it took me a year, because I wanted to be really sure about it. Wish I only took a semester, but I just knew I had to be really, really sure. And now I am really sure I have to be a teacher. So no matter how hard it's gonna get, I'm gonna go through that path. Versus chemistry, I was doing okay, but I was suffering and it was not worth it because I didn't like it anyway. So why would I stay in that? So yeah, I really related to your experience. Yeah.
What, if you don't mind me asking, was there a resource that helped you when you were going through the process of, okay, I really don't like this chemistry thing. What do I do from here? Was there something that helped with that, or was it a faculty? Was it a department? Or was it a family member or something?
First I did have experience with children, so that helped me. And I'm pretty sure I went to some workshops about career exploration. Yeah, and that helped me too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a surprise because not everybody even knows about the Career Center, on our campus and some of the career fairs and whatnot. So yeah, those are great opportunities to look at there. Carlos, what about you? You started in accounting, and was there an interest in accounting?
My main reason for doing that was to possibly minor in it because my math teacher in high school recommended to try that out if you weren't sure of any other paths that you wanted to take. But when I got to econ, the math was fine. It just wasn't the subject I wasn't very interested in at all. And I had switched to kinesiology because I had a friend currently majoring in that. And I had ended up going to a physical therapist because I had issues with my knees, and I thought it was pretty cool, like what they could do for people to help them overcome the struggles and like the problems with them just doing everyday activities or just something you like to do athletically. And then I like your main point about not being sure about what you're trying to do because I really am not. I'm just kind of going with it to see where it takes me, but my issue is I don't utilize all the opportunities I have and like what the school provides. That's my big issue.
Okay. Well, I think you're seeing something that's attractive to you, right? You went to a physical therapist and you kind of like seeing the ability of somebody that can help with others when they're from an injury and I would push it you to even think a little bit further about that is, and again, that's, if you will, my passion of why I love the profession of athletic training so much is that athletic trainers are trained, if you will, to support healthcare of active individuals. And it wasn't just physical therapy from an injury, a sports injury, but we interact with the active population and traditionally athletes, right? But we do have to work on counseling. We do have to work on mental health. And there are so many other aspects of healthcare in general that we interact with, that we're trained to, if you will, and educated to work with our populations that way. And now it's just even expanded further to, athletic trainers working in the military, in the armed forces, in the police department, so on and so forth. So just, our ability to affect healthcare is to me just so astounding. And that's why I love that profession. So I would, tell you, you should consider that. You should go talk to somebody in the athletic training area and see if that isn't what you want to do or not, right? Talk with them, see their everyday and see, and it's okay if you were to go to an athletic trainer or shadow a physical therapist for a day and come out and say, gosh, that is not the job that I would want to do. It helps you kind of redirect where your interest might be. So there's nothing wrong with that. And that is one of the considerations you may want to contact Julia or Sarah, the kinesiology advisors, about is before, back when I started, you did an internship at the end of your programming. What they are really promoting now is let's do a small, micro internship earlier in your programming, in your curriculum, so that you can kind of see if that is what you want to do or not. And you wouldn't be wasting your time. You'd still be taking the internship class, but it would only be for 1 unit versus doing it for 3 units. But that helps you explore some of the things that you may not want to do. Or maybe you actually find the passion for the field that you really want to be in. So I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to, if you have not yet, connect with the faculty in the Department of Kinesiology. They're all my colleagues, and again, they all have different perspectives. They're all specialists. They're really good at what, their subdisciplines, and I think they're just as passionate about it as I am. So it'd be a great way to learn about some of those other fields. That's always the challenge is, as a student, am I waiting for the resource to be brought to my doorstep, or do I go and find the resources and I go and take that? And I'm going to tell you, the longer you wait for the resource to come to your doorstep, the more opportunities you're going to miss out on. Okay, you really need to take the other step and be proactive and just start with one person. Start with Sarah, or start with Julia, or start with Dr. Rose, Debbie Rose, the department chair. Okay, they are all humans. They're all very good people. So they will be more than happy to have a conversation with you about the field and about potential careers. And then they may direct you or refer you to the next person to do that. And the more people you speak with, I think the more it's going to help you make those decisions as you go along, rather than your last semester, you finally, connect with one faculty and it's not necessarily the direction that you were really thinking before. So I would really encourage you to do that. And it doesn't take very much time. It takes time, but an hour, you committed to that step already today. You're giving me an hour of your time. And again, I hope I've pointed you in a direction to your next hour somewhere else. And I think you're going to find that to be so helpful in the end, rather than turn around and say, geez, I wish I had taken advantage of that resource 2 years ago. It's just a little late at that point. Again, you're talking to a guy that took 8 years to get an undergraduate degree. So, there are a lot of moments of turning back and saying, I wish. So hopefully you'll be able to start down that road, a better road than I did, by just taking that first step.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I would add, because I was just sharing this with the students who attended the CBE micro mentor session with Dr. Jenny Chang, that you really want to minimize the amount of times when you say, I wish I had done this, right? Yeah. And so taking every opportunity you can to expose yourself to new experiences, because you never know what those experiences what doors those experiences might open, right? So seek out opportunities even when they don't look like opportunities, right? Try your best to make sure that you are not creating any barriers that really don't exist from your own perspective, right? That's one thing I'll share, just a quick experience of when I was coming out of grad school. There was a job position that I wanted to apply to, but looking at the title of it, I didn't think I applied. I didn't think I qualified, right? One of my faculty for my grad program told me, well, did you read the description? Did you read the position description? And I said, well, yeah. And they asked, well, do you feel like you qualify for what they're asking for? And I said, well, yeah. And they said, well, then apply for it, right? Why create a wall for yourself that doesn't exist? Throw your name in the hat, let them decide if they want to continue to have you in their pool of candidates, right? So that's one of the best pieces of advice that I received as I was preparing for my full-time career. And so I shared that with you all very much earlier than when I got that advice, right? Don't create any barriers that don't exist. And I know sometimes it's hard because, right, like I was a first generation college student, which means I am also a first generation professional in my field, right? You all may have similar experiences where your experience in college, the challenges you might navigate might translate to your profession in a different way. And so I encourage you to begin reflecting on what has your experience been like, because oftentimes there are questions we don't know to ask, right? And so that's why it's so important to lean in and utilize your resources and support, and just ask questions that you may not even know if I'm asking the right question, but ask it, right? If there's anything that you're exploring, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest pieces about your college experience, is make sure that you are exploring who you are and how you're seeking to operate in this world, right? And ultimately, right, we always talk about the why, right? Why do these things matter for you in your experience? So I went on a quick soapbox, but I just wanted to share a little bit of that context just to encourage you all. Everything he's saying is spot on with anything I could share. So I'm grateful for that. But there's so many more insight. There's so much more insight that you all can gain from utilizing the support that you have available to you, right? So continue to take advantage of every opportunity, create opportunities for yourself, even when it doesn't seem like there is one.
Yeah, Dimitri, you remind me too, that I got it from an old book that I read, about arguing for our own limits. If we make the decision that why we're not qualified, why we're not good enough for whatever it is, you're not even giving that other person the opportunity to tell you why you are, right? So don't argue for those limits, like Dimitri said. Let them make the decisions for you. And more often than not, we might be surprised of how extra or why we actually are the best people for those positions. And so, like I said, even though it's not in your plan, like Dimitri mentioned, go for it anyways. Apply for that job anyways, right? Your unique story, your organic story for yourself is what's going to make you different and unique than anybody else that's going to apply for that. And you can't worry about those things, right? You can't worry about if the other applicant, has a degree from such and such a program or such and such a school and blah, blah, blah. You're in the pool for consideration for, the stipend or, to get into that graduate program, whatever it is, because they want to hear your unique story. And again, I hope what you learned, if nothing else you heard today, is I'm not like excited and proud of the fact that I struggled, but I'm not embarrassed by that. It is what makes me who I am. And it is what makes me, I think, unique to the different positions. And so I'm not saying make that your strength, but your unique story is your strength. And that's what you want to take going into your interviews or to your next positions or whatever it is. So, I know, Cal State Fullerton is a great institution. We have great programs, we have great faculty, but we are not you. And we can be a part of your story, but you need to be, again, the one that takes advantage of all of that in creating your story. So, again, I know we're right at that time. I want to thank you for the opportunity to even just meet with you and meet you a little bit here, as I've always done as a department chair, but I rarely ever get anybody to take me up on it. Is you're welcome in my office or at my office at any time. Send me an email, show up. I'm in EC 612. I'm always open to meeting and speaking with you. And it doesn't have to be, me reaching out to you because you're on academic probation or something, right? I mean, this isn't the principal's office. You can come and talk to us. We are resources. Everybody here in the dean's office is that way. The student success centers are that way. So, I invite you to come and say hello and just chat for a quick minute. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be a full-blown lecture or anything. But again, we're resources and we're happy to connect with our students.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for your
Thank you
time.
very much.
Sweet. Well, thank you all for spending this time to really dig in, learn a little bit more about the opportunities you can take advantage of while you're still a student, as well as how you can prepare for life beyond college. For those of you who are attending with us on Zoom, we will provide a link to you. Actually, we can drop it in the chat. We can drop a link in the chat, Melissa, if you can do that while I'm talking. Drop a link in the chat for you all to share some feedback regarding what this experience was like for you. We're hoping to do similar experiences like this in the spring semester. So if this has been of value to you, let us know so we can continue to craft these opportunities for you. If this was not the move and you didn't find it valuable in any way, let us know so we can do something different, right? And so if you are watching the playback, same thing to you all, there should be a link to the survey in the description of the video. So please, please, please give us some feedback. Let us know what this experience really meant for you. Again, thank you all for taking this time. We hope that it was valuable, and we look forward to engaging with you all further. Take care.